I have longed for proof that drivers and the ability to hit a great drive is overrated. It just so happened I filmed all the proof I needed when working with Damien over the last year. The perfect blend of 3 different drivers in that time period, combined with a few swing changes, meant I watched a golfer just like all of us striving for more distance and accuracy off the tee accomplish his goal with a driver that he hadn't even touched before. The bigger question at the end of this impressive feat is how much did it affect lowering his score, and whether buying a new fitted driver or working tirelessly on a new driver technique to reach the same standard as Damien is driving the golf ball the most overrated aspect of our game. I met Damien at the start of the year as an 18 handicap golfer, and apart from the main goal of lowering his handicap, which I will show you the most up-to-date progress at the end, the biggest goal was having the ability to hit his driver further and straighter. Hopefully you will see this progress unfold, but the biggest change and light bulb moment came towards the end of his final round. Many golfers like Damien that have a great amount of natural clubhead speed find their hybrid or fairway would tend to travel the same amount of distance as the big stick. This loss of distance can easily be perceived as one of the big reasons why their handicap is not coming down. I would like to state at this point, distance very much does matter in this game. If all of us were able to walk down the fairway and drop it at 280 yards in the middle, don't get me wrong, that's going to make a difference to all of our scores. But hopefully after watching this journey, you will realise, just like me and Damien did, it's not as big of a difference that most of us would like to believe. And hopefully I can shed some light on why the driver, in my eyes, could be classed as overrated. Now, Damien had started this journey with a Ping G425, very forgiving and very up to date. But most of the technical progress, i.e. swing changes, which we'll cover, was made with this driver. I then personally fitted him into a Rogue ST driver, secondhand of course, at the start of the year. With the right shaft and loft, a few swing changes, we eventually went from 230 yards off the tee to reaching 300. But like any big hitter, consistency will always be a challenge. So with reasons out of Damien's control, he had to actually borrow a set of clubs off a mate to do our final session out on the golf course. So how is it with a driver that wasn't fitted for him, in a pressured environment, did I somehow watch a man that had little confidence at the start of the year with this type of club drive the ball so well that it put my own game to shame? But in the same sentence, this round of golf I witnessed was a perfect example of what separates an average golfer to a great one. Now, don't get me wrong, we worked on every aspect of Damien's game, from wedge play to iron, stock shot off the tee, and of course the driver. But just like myself back in the day, and many golfers wanting to get down to single figures, until you truly drive the ball phenomenally well for a period of time, and you then start to see very little change to your overall score, do you start to appreciate how the boring part of the game makes such a big difference. We can take a look back of where Damien's swing was back in December. There was a good amount of shots that would work with certain clubs. He did come over the top with a pretty open club face, which invariably always caused a slice. He would then have a stronger grip to help with this slice. But again, the club face wouldn't close enough, which in turn led him to keep a lot of weight on the back foot to allow for the club to have more time to close on the way through. Ultimately, the trade-off for this great strike and compression into the golf ball would leave a bad result of the ball finishing to the right of the target. So evidently, changing his swing path and club face would eventually allow him to be rewarded when hitting down on the ball, and also transferring his weight correctly with the driver meant longer, straighter drives. But there's one big problem I always see with this progress. Like Damien and many other golfers, at the start, Damien off the tee would be left normally with 150 yards into the flag, which understandably, like many people, if we thought we had 50 yards less, i.e. only 100 yards into the flag, we would all think that our scores would then be a lot lower. He would either opt for his hybrid or fairway woods, try and get it down the middle as the risk and reward wasn't quite there with the driver, or if he did take driver, more often or not, he wouldn't quite catch it, and invariably this would leave him in a position, whether with a hybrid, fairway wood or driver, with a mid-iron in. But with a relatively forgiving iron, an over-the-top swing can work. And from 150 yards out, if you're somewhere around the green, or let's be honest, on the green, a little chip and a few putts, a bogey would be accomplished, and for an 18 handicap golfer, that would very much be suitable. Whereas we fast forward to the last month, Damien crunches driver on numerous occasions. Instead of 150 yards left in, we now have 100 or even less in certain situations. But if the ball isn't within 25 foot of the flag on a bad shot, which is the important bit to talk about from this distance, realistically, you can't expect your scores to be much lower than when you had 150 yards in. Damien's good shot with every club in the bag has dramatically improved. More height, more distance. The bad shot with the longer clubs in the bag, which used to be a card wrecker, are now in play. But it's a rite of passage for many golfers, which some of you guys that have played the game for a long time and are single figures will remember the days you obsess over the driver, bought different brands, shafts, club fits, etc. But then you got to a level that was competent. You realised to play off 4, 6, 7. It didn't really matter if the driver was working or not. It's no wonder when I was working at multiple pro shops when I was younger, I would always see the members of the club A team or the club champion on the short game area in the evenings, and the higher handicap players on the driving range. But I say this to everyone. It's a rite of passage. You have to hit loads of balls in this game. You have to get to a competent level. And then realistically, the driver, new, old, or fitted, will work to a certain degree in your hands. I'm not saying it would be perfect, and I'm not putting down getting fitted for a driver, but when we're talking about gaining 10, 12 yards, or potentially shortening that dispersion circle by 8%, in the grand scheme of things, over 18 holes, what is going to make the biggest difference to getting your score lower? So therefore, it was no wonder when Damien picked up the stealth driver that he had borrowed from his mate, a different loft, a different shaft, he hadn't even hit balls on the range to warm up, did he then put a masterclass on the golf ball around the golf course with the big stick. However, it was very evident throughout this round and ultimately got me and Damien talking about the future. Multiple times Damien was in A1, that 280 yard perfect spot in the middle of the fairway, yet not only didn't we walk away with a birdie, on occasion we were walking away with a 5. Subsequently, after going through the bits that we had worked on in the past, talked about wedge techniques, knowing your yardages, knowing the wedge shots, knowing the right flight to put on the ball, Damien has been able to post 2 scores of 79. As well as his handicap coming down to 11, with single figures definitely knocking on the door. Not a single #1 golfer in the world has been able to accomplish that feat without a solid wedge game and an amazing ability to get the ball in the hole with the flat stick. Love to hear your thoughts, and if you have any questions on your game or equipment, message me at sasgolfacademy.com. Damien, pleasure working with you, mate.